In terms of a security perspective, is this a better deal in terms of having more control over those who come to our country? Because we've seen, haven't we, on the small boats, people taking out their documentation, their passports, their driving license, and just throwing them into the sea. Whereas here, at least, they'd have a family connection to Britain and they're subject to full documentation checks. You know exactly who's coming in.
Well, that's the claim.
That's what we're being told, yeah.
Exactly. And so we'll have to see how that plays out in practice. But the reality is, I mean, are the French really going to allow people to just, turn up on their shores and, queue up in Calais, and claiming that they've got a connection to the UK, all the while just waiting there for somebody that hasn't got a connection to the UK or someone that has arrived in a small boat that hasn't got the documentation to be deported? Are France really just going to take on that individual? I think, this is a pilot scheme for a year. So, therefore, in itself, only being a year, is that a deterrent enough?
Charlie, how will it practically work? How do they see it now? We've got 800 or so migrants coming into the country every week. The maximum we can return is 50, as I understand it. But how? I mean, I just see this as a lawyer's dream. This will be so for everyone who comes, right, we've got a migrant, we're going to return them. Oh, no, you're not. It'll go on forever.
Yes, so there's supposedly and should be a UK border force and processing checks taking place side by side with French officials in France. So if somebody comes to France and says, I've got a claim to be in the UK or I've got a family connection, that person will be sort of held there until we can deport someone from the UK that's arrived on a small boat, on a dinghy, as Ellie said, someone that hasn't got the documentation or anything like that. And then they will be deported to France, and it'll be a sort of a swapsy sort of situation. But how many people can both France and the UK accommodate? You're right, it's earmarked for about 50 people, I think, a week, which is not good enough in terms of the daily numbers that we're seeing and entering, well, we're in August now, but entering what should be a summery period where the calm conditions will always be there. We're going to see more and more people taking up that small boat crossing.
What irritates me, amongst the many things that irritate me, are being lectured to by the Prime Minister or the Home Secretary or the Foreign Secretary that this is a really good deal for Britain. How on earth? I mean, do you want to just say to these people, do you think we're all stupid?
I think that is absolutely right, because you can't take the British public for fools. They can see through when government is either on the ropes or trying to spin you a fast one, and they will see that this is not what the public want, a one in, one out. They just want the whole boats issue to stop. Trying to tell people, on the one hand, if we had riots last summer, that it was all part of a far-right bandwagon. Now, of course, we're seeing more peaceful protests, but more protests nonetheless, on the back of illegal immigration, on the back of people's safety. When you're hearing reports not just of people that have come into the country, they're getting free accommodation, they're getting their healthcare, they're getting £50 a week or whatever, they're able to work as a food delivery driver, it seems to be illegally. We're now talking about people that haven't been prosecuted but are charged for crimes against women and girls, sexual and violent crimes of people that have broken into the country, effectively. That has got to stop. That is why the country is now at that tipping point and that breaking point, I think. And so the idea that the Prime Minister and Number 10 and, old political advisors like, me would have said to the Prime Minister, oh, I think it'd be a really good idea during this sort of summer of what could be a summer of discontent, just have a one in, one out scheme, Prime Minister. That'll tell the public, that'll wash. It doesn't. So I don't know who's advising the people in Number 10. I don't know why the Prime Minister thinks that it was acceptable last year to call it a far-right bandwagon when actually the public mood is very much behind wanting the government to get behind stopping this issue. And, you have minister after minister sort of saying, well, if it's things like the rape gang scandal that we had, a different topic, but nonetheless, the idea that you can't talk about these things, otherwise you'd be deemed a racist, or you can't talk about these things because otherwise you'd be, a fruitcake, closet racist, a crackpot. Now that whole tinderbox is open because for too long we haven't been able to talk about these serious issues in the UK, and I think that's now, coupled with immigration, coupled with the crimes that we're seeing, coupled with our prisons being filled by foreign nationals, it is all, as I say, a boiling point which I don't think the UK can cope with for much longer.